Greetings, you are watching breaking news on the Creative Society channel.
Watching this episode. The frequency of climate disasters has increased so much that in some parts of the planet cataclysms are continually striking one after another. On January 3rd and 4th, 2022, a snowstorm caused massive power outages in the US capital, Washington, D.C., as well as in the neighboring states of Maryland and Virginia. Unfortunately, casualties have been reported. Severe snowstorms stuck hundreds of drivers in their cars along a 65-mile stretch of Interstate 95 in Virginia. Many people trapped in the snow were without food and water for more than a day. They described the situation as unprecedented. The topic of natural disasters in the US will be continued by a breaking news reporter.
Hello, this is a breaking news reporter from the USA. On December 30th, 2021, a winter storm hit California, USA. Record rains were recorded in some localities of Los Angeles County. A powerful mudslide, landslide, and rockfall were observed in mountainous areas. Several highways and major roads were closed. A state of emergency was declared in 20 counties due to heavy snowfall in the state of California. The storm impacted several other states as well as the Sierra Nevada mountains. Sadly, one casualty and one missing person have been recorded. About 1 million people were left without electricity. Several communities were paralyzed due to heavy snow and ice on the roads. Schools were also closed, and air and road traffic was disrupted. On December 30th and 31st, Boulder County in the U.S. state of Colorado was engulfed by a catastrophic wildfire. In short time, the cities of Louisville and Superior burned to the ground. Wind speeds of nearly 170 kilometers per hour contributed to the spread of the fire. 34,000 people had to be evacuated in an emergency. Several families literally had minutes to leave the dangerous area. The fire destroyed about 1,000 buildings, including private residences, hotels, shopping centers, and businesses. Several people were injured, and there are missing people. A state of emergency was declared in the state. A group of scientists from the University of Colorado suggested the fire was linked to climate change. Because of the extra wet spring of 2021, large amounts of grass grew, which turned into flammable fuels during the severe drought. On January 1st, 2022, the fire was stopped by snowfall. Temperatures in the region dropped to minus 13 degrees Celsius and about 15 centimeters of snow fell.
December 2021 was the warmest on record in the state of Texas. On average, the temperature in the cities was 3-4 degrees Celsius above normal.
And for Kentuckians, this same month was marked by a devastating tornado that practically wiped out an entire city and took the lives of many people.
Watch next Jason Whitman from the United States, who will tell us about the situation people found themselves in after this tornado.
I saw it on social media on Twitter that they were saying that it was a very, very strong possibility of an EF2 to EF5 tornado coming through there at exactly the time that it came through there, and people were there. If you want to go, the candle factory in Kentucky, it's being reported that they told people that if they left and went home to safety, that they would be fired. You're looking at potential class action lawsuits and everything there. I think part of it, you got to take a responsibility for yourself. You can replace the home, you can replace the business, but you can't replace a life. I'm not a scientist, but I know that hurricane season is getting extended by months. Hurricanes are occurring earlier and later in the year than they have ever done before. Tornado season used to start in maybe late March, beginning of April. Now major tornadoes are hitting in February and they're hitting in December. I don't know all the details yet, but after that tornado just went through, 4 states and it was a massive tornado. 3-4 days later, we had another tornado that came through Iowa. Massive tornadoes are almost occurring year round now. We can't, so the climate change is there. It would be real difficult to deny that is impacting our world. And then just economically, what goes on in those communities. One of the big things to think about is that people have lost everything. They have no homes. The entire city of Mayfield was leveled and destroyed. If you have an injury or a car accident or something, you get to go to work to have income to kind of fix it. But these people in these areas, they lost their home. The business that they work at was destroyed. They have no way for income moving forward, if that makes sense. I mean, whatever they have in their bank account is what they have to rebuild a house. And then if they don't have insurance on their home, and if they didn't have a good insurance agent that specifically said tornado insurance, they have no income moving forward. And that area will probably take years to rebuild. So look at it a global picture, not just what's going on in my little town, in my little world and everything, but what's going on all around the country, all around the world that impacts everything.
On the 5th of January, torrential rains hit Balochistan, Pakistan, causing flooding in coastal areas. Thousands of residents were forced to flee their homes to escape the natural disaster. The city of Gwadar received 104 millimeters of rainfall within 24 hours, though the average rainfall for January here is less than 8 millimeters. At the same time, heavy rains and snowfall in Afghanistan left dozens of people injured. Casualties have been reported. Earlier this year, flash floods also hit countries in the Middle East. More on what happened, watch next.
Hello, this is a breaking news reporter. On January 1st, 2022, the coast of the Red Sea in Egypt was hit by a storm, snow, heavy rain, and hail. Unfortunately, casualties have been reported. In the cities of Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh, bad weather caused flooding of some streets. Large hailstones shattered some roofs and windows of houses. Also, due to the abundant rainfall, ceilings in some buildings could not withstand it and began to leak. A 2-story house in Alexandria collapsed after heavy rain. A man was found dead under the rubble of the building. Bad weather caused a lot of trouble for local residents and tourists alike. Schools were cancelled in 5 provinces. This rare storm was one of the strongest ever in the last 30 years. According to the Egyptian Meteorological Services, the snowfall was caused by a very powerful weather system that displaced cold air from the South Atlantic. Such a phenomena is quite abnormal for this area. In early January, several days of heavy rains caused flash floods in the Persian Gulf countries. In Oman and Iran, the floods killed people. In Muscat, the capital of Oman, 2 months worth of rain fell in just a few hours. Many settlements were completely underwater. Muddy water rushed through the narrow streets, sweeping away everything in its path. In Iran, more than 20,000 people were affected by the flood. Heavy rains also affected the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. In the United Arab Emirates, people who tried to escape the flood by climbing onto the roofs of their cars had to be evacuated by helicopter. There was extensive damage to agriculture, infrastructure, and homes.
Well, in Egypt itself, they say it's the first time they've seen this. The first time they've seen this at all. Well, it's really blowing hard. And when you see it in front of you, you realize that global climate change is clearly making itself felt. And it shows what it's all coming to.
On January 3, 2022, a magnitude 6.2 earthquake occurred near the coast of Taiwan Island. The strongest tremors were felt in the capital Taipei and Yilan County. According to USGS, for the first week of 2022, there have been already 6 earthquakes of magnitude 6 and higher.
It's worth noting that the number of earthquakes of magnitude 6 or higher has increased significantly in recent years. So, in 2021, there were 159 of them on the planet. Among them, there were 16 earthquakes with magnitude from 7 to 8 and 3 seismic events with magnitude above 8. For comparison, in 2020, there were only 121 earthquakes with magnitude from 6 registered, and there were no earthquakes with magnitude above 8 at all.
According to the Geological Agency of Indonesia's Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, there were 26 destructive earthquakes in 2021, a record for the past 20 years. The statistics include those seismic events that resulted in fatalities, damage to buildings, environmental damage, and loss of property.
Watch the next report for other natural disasters in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Russian Federation. From December 30th, 2021, heavy rains began to fall on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia, triggering floods. Unfortunately, casualties have been reported. About 24,000 people were forced to leave their homes. The next day, a state of emergency was declared in the region of Padang Lawas, North Sumatra province. In Aceh province, in the north of the island, rivers overflowed, and in the city of Lokseu Mawe, 149 millimeters of rain fell in 24 hours. That is the month's amount of the wettest month of the year. In total, over 67,000 people were affected by the disaster. Over 17,000 homes were damaged. In early January 2022, massive flooding is also continuing in Malaysia. Casualties and missing people have been reported. A total of 7 states of the country were affected. Thousands of people have been evacuated. The total number of victims in the last 2 weeks has exceeded 125,000 people. On January 4th, heavy rain caused flooding in the village of Arhipo Osipovka near Gelendzhik, Russian Federation. The river Bulan overflowed its banks, flooding about 70 home areas. Residents from the affected houses were evacuated by boat to temporary accommodation facilities.
Fires have been raging in southern Argentina since late December 2021. At least 11 provinces have registered flashpoints. In connection with this, a state of emergency was declared in the country. Unfortunately, a helicopter crashed while extinguishing the fire. Casualties have been reported. Due to the strong winds, the flames spread quickly, burning everything on their way. The disaster devastated hundreds of hectares of land. Farms suffered huge losses. The fire burned farmland to the ground. The local flora and fauna suffered enormous damage. According to the specialists, climate change is the reason for that. The fires have become more frequent and aggressive and uncontrollable. The topic of fires in South America will be continued by an eyewitness and volunteer firefighter from Chile.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, my name is Javier Aravena Gaiti. I'm from Chile, Grande de Chiloé Island area, and I work as a firefighter in Castro, in a unit that specialized in hazardous material. In Chile, wildfires were not so massive before. We had a huge fire that destroyed over 140 homes. It spread rapidly, and here we are dealing with a situation that the Spanish call Category 6 fires. There are large-scale fires, very destructive, that occur in forested areas near homes. At 3:30 in the afternoon, we were sent to a wildfire near the houses. This was to be expected, as a very similar event had occurred in the same sector 2 weeks earlier. Everything there was scorched to the depth. The roots were left. They could even continue to burn underground for months, and the soil was dry. Obviously, nothing can stop this burning. Everything is destroyed. Holes are really forming in the ground, because the ground is all scorched. There is nothing. The soil was blown up, and because the temperature was about 32 degrees Celsius, and additionally there was a strong wind that day, all the conditions were created for the fire to quickly reignite. Unfortunately, when the National Emergency Department of the Ministry of the Interior sounds the alarm, people don't evacuate, but go inside to get their things out. That's what everyone usually does. They take out furniture, beds, televisions, and whatever else they can to save their homes. But when they do so, a jam forms that doesn't allow a large truck with lots of water to enter. The fire spread quickly. We, the firefighters, had no water. Tanker trucks, trucks that carry a large volume of water, over 10,000 liters, couldn't enter the area because of narrowness on the streets. People didn't want to evacuate their homes, and eventually there were 2 such settlements with over 300 homes affected by the fire. People suffered from asphyxiation and burns. It was a disaster. More than 140 homes were burned to the ground. There was nothing left of the houses. It was as if a bomb had been dropped on the sector. Many people lost their homes, but fortunately no one died. There were many injuries, burns, chokings, bruises, cuts, but no one died. 10 years ago, there were no water problems here. Today there are sectors where we have to deliver drinking water to the population by water carriers, because they have no water. We get water from a mountain range called Puejo. That's its scientific name. The water from this mountain range comes down in a certain way, is absorbed by a most cold pampan, and it retains it throughout the year. And in times of drought or heat, it releases water, usually in the summer, when rivers are kept at a constant water level. The big problem is that the process of climate change has become evident, because there is less rain than in past years. This year there were very high temperatures. There was no such things before. It's usually 19 to 21 degrees here. Today the temperature even reached 32 to 35 degrees in the summer, and obviously this has caused the land to dry out. Since there has always been a lot of vegetation here, it's a very beautiful place, but the big trouble is that it's all been destroyed. The pristine forest has been completely destroyed.
If you have witnessed a climate anomaly, send your video footage to climate@creativesociety.com. Every day in different parts of the world, more and more people find themselves in the midst of the raging natural forces. Only from December 31st, 2021 to January the 6th, 2022, humanity was hit by massive fires, catastrophic floods, snowstorms, hail, and other cataclysms.
Now our planet is going through a difficult period of global climate change, which is caused by the impact from outer space. The Earth needs additional resources to get through it, but it is weaker than ever before in the history of our civilization, because we have disturbed its natural ecological processes with our consumerism to such an extent that the planet can no longer resist the impact from the space.
How this affects each one of us was voiced at the Universal Conference, Global Crisis, Time for the Truth, which was held on December 4th, 2021. Let's watch a short excerpt from the conference on pollution of the world ocean.
The world ocean covers 70% of our planet. For a long time, we've been dumping all of our waste into it. We naively thought it would just dissolve. But at present, the ocean is a garbage dump, which can already be seen from outer space. For example, in the Pacific Ocean, there is a garbage patch equal in area to France, Germany, Italy, and Poland combined. And this is only a small part of the garbage that is present in the ocean. There is much more waste underwater, and it already permeates all of the ocean's water column. And there is a significant amount of nuclear waste at the bottom of the ocean that is already seeping into its waters. In the ocean, plastic breaks down and disintegrates in a natural way. This creates microplastics that can no longer be collected and utilized. It stays in the water forever. These microparticles are already part of the ocean, killing all life. Microplastics have even been found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench and in the Arctic ice. We can shut our eyes to this as much as we want, but the fish we already eat contains microplastics and other toxic substances. Even today there are no pure seafood products, but they will soon disappear completely because nearly 90% of the world's marine fish stock are now fully exploited or depleted. Major specialists from various fields of oceanological science at a regular meeting of the International Program on the State of the Ocean, IPSO, announced that the rate of change in the living conditions of the marine environment has been shocking. The world ocean has entered a phase of extreme risk, when ocean life in the high seas and deep seas is under threat. The ocean is the lungs of the planet. Ocean algae, called phytoplankton, produce up to 80% of the oxygen we breathe. Today, phytoplankton is dying. This is because of pollution, acidification, and the natural heating up of the ocean. If phytoplankton dies, the ocean will die. And if the ocean dies, people will die too. Because we just won't have air. And today our actions are bringing that moment closer. The only way out is to change the format of society from a consumer society to a creative one. The creative society is the last chance to save our lives.
We will be able to go through a period of global climate change when all of humanity's potential will be focused not on consumption, but on overcoming the growing climate threat.
A human affects this and affects strongly, but he only affects the health of our planet. Whereas the climate is changing because of external factors. So the totality of all these negative factors is the reason, as some politicians say, for the inevitability we need to prepare for. Why? Because they don't know what to do. They really don't know what to do. So imagine, in the current situation, after all, everyone is smart, and again, those people onto whom we are shifting our responsibility, they understand the whole cause. But they hope, what if it goes away on its own? While here imagine, in order to make the right, correct decisions, in order to save all humanity, what should they do?
Completely transform the whole system, change it.
Completely change everything. And they know and understand why. They understand that without the unification of people it's impossible. It simply will not work out, but what if it goes away? Suddenly, the climate will get better. Should he give up his power? His favorite cupcakes? Will they go for that? They will not. That is why even these politicians, well loved by everyone, tell their flock, their people, we must prepare for the inevitable, just in case. Is that normal? It's normal, right? I don't think it's normal.
The responsibility for the format of the society we now live in lies with each of us.
Only in the creative society, technology, science, economics, and other human activities are holistically focused on saving the planet and keeping everyone alive.
You can learn more about the Creative Society at creativesociety.com.
Thank you for being with us today, and see you soon on the Creative Society channel.